Hello all, welcome to Mind Ockler. I'm Mahalakshmi Samson. Today I'm going to talk about triggers and what happens when we are triggered. So I would like to begin with a question. Have you ever reacted in a way that made you wonder, why did I do that? Maybe it was a word or a place or even just a tone of voice that sets you off like that. That's the power of emotional triggers, where it pulls you out of the present and it takes you into the pain of your past, of our past, right? And when it does, mostly damage happens, right? And if it is our choice, it's a different ball game. But if it is not, and we take decisions in a state of a trigger, then it's very important that we need to be very cautious about, right? And so for that, we need to know what triggers really are. Triggers actually are stored emotional memories. They aren't just people, but they can be a place, your old school, or the place that you have lived in, or a particular room, right? It also could be a sound of a bell, a slammed door, right? Somebody's voice, right? And it could be a word, and words, for example, that triggers off could be, you're a failure, you're a stupid, right? Such things, when somebody says, we just get triggered off like that. And so it could be a word. And also, it could be a time of year, which means it could be a festival after a specific loss, or it could be a specific month in a year, or it could be even a situation where you're reminded of authority figures, possibly unquestionable authorities like your parents, mother, father, or someone equivalent to that, right? So what happens is, when we are triggered, our brain says this feels like that old wound. When we are talking about the old wound, it is something that has not been healed and it is still bleeding, right? And because it has not been healed and processed, when we encounter a similar situation, all that has been that has been stored in that memory comes and takes control of our current situation, of our emotional states in the situation right now, what we are facing, right? So which means we react from memory, from that memory, and not from the present moment. In fact, the person whom we are dealing with will have no connection to what has happened in our life before that. Possibly they may have no clue of what it was, and they would not have been even part of that memory. But because we get triggered and we get into the past, right, we come back very strongly, very powerfully. And what happens is, it is like, we handle the situation with a sledgehammer, where it could have been just a fly, where you could have just tapped it away. But the point is the realization. Did we have the realization? Especially, do we have the awareness when we are triggered? In fact, I want to talk to you about a woman, about the decision that she had taken when, in a triggered state, which she had regretted very deeply in her life. Right? If you look at her life, right, after her father passed away, she carried unprocessed anger towards him. She loved him a lot, but still, his dominance, his choice of decisions in his life are something that has hurt her, very deeply, and it was not healed. It had never shown up, and it was inside brewing, right, for a voice to show up. In a triggered state, she made a life altering decision. And do you know what? She chose to marry somebody who is almost about 30 plus years, which means, she was about 26, 27 when she chose to marry, and that person was 60 years old, which means about 33 years elder than her. Of course, it's her personal decision to make a choice like that, but the fact that has to be there is that it should be her own decision, not a decision taken from a triggered space, right? When she chose to marry, right, it was not truly that she wanted this marriage, but because the unresolved trigger was controlling her choices. And years later, she was left with regret and a deep awareness of how triggers, when not released, can lead us into paths we never consciously choose. But when this realization came, when this awareness came, she was in very deep pain, right? But this could have been averted if she would have got that awareness, that knowledge that I am triggered right now, and this is not the right time to make a very important decision, right? So which means, when we have that awareness, we are claiming our power back, right? Our happiness lies in our ability to live fully in each of the roles that we play, as a parent, as a partner, as a professional, as a friend or child, wherever we are, right? But when triggers hijack us, we stop living from that freedom in that role. Instead, we live from old pain, old anger, and old fear. Releasing them doesn't mean also forgetting, but it means reclaiming our power to choose to be in the present, so that we can focus and deal with it with what is needed at that point of time. So, what can we do about it when we are triggered? Right? I would like to give you a few action steps that you can choose to adopt when you get that awareness, when you get into a state where you know that you are triggered, and bursting out or reacting in that space, should have more choices to choose from, and bursting out is just one of it, right? So what you can do when you want to deal with it very powerfully is that first thing is, pause and name it, which means notice how you're feeling at that moment, and tell yourself, I am triggered right now. The moment you name it, right, it creates distance between you and the reaction. Between you and the reaction. It could be an anger, it could be an anxiety, it could be even jealousy, but it is important to know that you're triggered. The moment you get triggered, then you get a grip of what do you want to do at that point of time. And the second one is locate it in the body, right? Every emotion that we feel has got a place in our body. We will get to know when we start focusing on that. Now, when you're triggered, it's very important to ask that question, what is it I'm feeling in my body? It could be a tight chest, a knot in the stomach, and it could be about even shaky hands. When you get your awareness there, when you start focusing there, you will understand that this focus, when you identify where it is in your body, will help you to ground the emotion in sensation instead of the story your mind is telling you at that point of time. And the third one is breathe and release, right? Take 3 to 5 slow breaths. Imagine releasing the stored energy with each exhale. Tell yourself you're just letting go of the heat of what you're feeling at that moment, the anger, that anxiety, so that you can calm down. And then ask a present moment question that will help you to come back to the present from the past, right? So the question could be, am I reacting to this moment or to a memory? If it is to a memory, then it is a clear trigger, right? And that's very important, right? When you actually understand that, then you will be able to get the grip out of the fact that when you are acting from a memory, it is going to interrupt and put you into autopilot reactivity, right? That comes from the old wound, right? So that you can take yourself out of it, you can claim yourself out of that situation and focus on what has to be done at that moment. And the next one that you can do is journal or voice it out. Write down what the trigger reminds you of. What is that? What is that story? What is it reminding you of, right? So let your inner voice express the pain so it is not bottled inside. So when you're journaling, you are actually giving a voice to that trigger, voice to that pain. And when you keep your pen on the paper, you're giving yourself an opportunity to give that voice, right? If you can give a microphone to that voice, what will the voice say? Write it down, right? It's not about typing, it's important to write it down so that you can really release it, right? And the sixth one, if you look at it, it is about making a choice of a conscious response, which means only after the wave passes, take action or make a decision, not in the heat of a trigger, never from the heat of a trigger, which is very important. But if you do it, right? If you do it, then I'm sure, or possibly even your experience would say, most of the times that decision would not be yours, right? Whatever is the decision, take it from the authenticity of who you are, not from the trigger of the past. With me, all of you, right? Your past may explain your triggers, but it does not have to control your future. So each time you pause, breathe, and release, then that is when you create space for your freedom. Freedom to live each of your roles with joy, with clarity and power. And that's where your true happiness lies. Right? If this video has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe. I invite you to comment and share it with somebody with whom this video could make a real sense and value to them. Right? Thank you so much. Till we meet next time in another video.